Welcome everyone to Politically High Tech. This is the second to last episode of this season, 269 to be exact. I have someone here who's going to definitely give you tips how to elevate your boring, I'm going to say like it is, boring, dull, and even at worst case scenario, hideous PowerPoint presentations. You got the cure for that, okay? If your PowerPoint is ugly, she's your girl. If it's boring, she's your girl. If it's just forgettable, she's your girl. Okay, so we're going to cure the boring, the ugly, the forgettable PowerPoint presentations or even portfolios, because PowerPoint can be used for so many things instead of just presentations. And it's been, it's a old, I won't say old, but it is a veteran player in the block. It survived many trends. I have used PowerPoint since middle school. Yes, I'm aging a little bit. To my current job. All right. It's been stable, I should say, for a long while. And some of you, a lot of us uses it. I don't care what country you're from, as long as you have access to a laptop, Wi-Fi, the internet, doesn't matter. You have access to the Microsoft PowerPoint. And it's such a great tool. Well, I'm going to say just for my personal story, just a little bit, because I don't make it too much about me. Mastering this tool 15 years ago, 2010, is different from mastering it now. So if you think your 2010 skills are great, you got another thing coming. That's considered boring and bland. It was amazing 15 years ago. No. You got to put some designs, movie, make it interesting, and don't read the PowerPoint because I would get bored. I could read it faster. It's much clearer for me just to read what's on the slide. Okay. Well, I'm just saying I'm a proud, harsh critic of that. I've seen that happen so many times. It's unbelievable. This tool's been around, but I doubt we have a lot of experts. Emily here is going to help you out with that. So before we get into it, Emily, what do you want the viewers and listeners to know about you?
Thank you for having me. I loved your intro to it. You're right. It is a tool that's been around, but the uses of it have evolved or how we engage with it. What do I want people to know about me? My magical knack is simplifying complex information. I love helping people better connect with their audiences, make more impact, be more precise, and just drive businesses forward. There's so many opportunities and conversations that we have in the business world, and PowerPoint is such a great tool to support and enhance those conversations to create clarity, create alignment. And when it's done well, simple, consistency, you can really make such an impact and really drive what you need in those decisions forward. And it's such a win-win. I love helping people build their confidence, and with a strong presentation, I think, or when you have a strong PowerPoint slides, right, in your presentation to support your voiceover, you're not reading it. You're more confident as that presenter or as that key information sharer, and it makes such an impact. So it's so fun to share my zone of genius with everybody. I'm happy to be here, and hopefully I can educate and give people some tips or get them curious on how we could partner and create stronger impact together.
And this is a message I'm going to say to the so-called boomer label. If you're young at heart, you're still willing to learn, you go overcome this, because some of you kind of fear these changes, and I get it. But have fun with it. Play with it. Experiment with it. That's all I'm going to say before I get into it. And trust me, there are some, I would say, seasoned people. I don't want to even say elderly, seasoned folks. People are like 20, 30 years experience, probably worked to like the bubble computer era, like 19s with black and green, and black screen with green text and numbers. Look, you could do it too, as long as you're a lifelong learner. I want to encourage it. I don't want to make this into an accidental ageist episode, because that is not my intent. And if I do that, please cancel me, because I don't want that to happen. So you could be practically 5 years old to like, I don't know, centennial. As long as you want to learn, that's it. It's the will and the drive. I think that's one key thing I could say before you catch computer phobia. I don't know what's the exact term for that, for lack of a better word, or AI phobia to be more exact. That's what's spooking a lot of people. Not exactly computers, but AI phobia as well. So I'm not going to go with my normal model. If you don't learn AI, your career will die. kind of thing, because I'm trying to do something new in this New Year's resolution. I'm trying not to be all doomsy about it or give you all fear-mongering alarms about learning the AI. So I'm changing. I could evolve, I'm trying to have a nice, more gentle approach to this and just say, oh, if you don't learn AI, your career's going to die. All right. So I used to do that just to be dramatic, get your attention, but I realized there's got to be a better way. And maybe you turned some of you off because I was putting that fear to your head even more. So my apologies if I have affected you that way. I own up to it. That's a mistake I made. So this is something for 2025 and for the future next season as well. Totally changed my tune with that. So first question I got, I like to start with the negative sometimes. What are the common mistakes people make when it comes to these PowerPoint presentations, and how can they be avoided? I think I already listed a few, but I'm sure you can add a lot more.
I mean, you listed like the top ones, right? I use the term death by PowerPoint. So where we over communicate, where we have all the words on the slide and we read exactly, where we don't focus on what the intent of the slide is or the overall presentation takeaway, and we give everybody the kitchen sink or everything in the kitchen sink. I think part of what I've learned is, and through my journey, like you said, like with PowerPoint and just in my career, is that I think sometimes when we don't feel confident, we think we need to over communicate. We need to tell all the details of the story, right? Even just in personal life, how many times have you had a conversation? You're like, I didn't need to know what time you showed up at the movie and who the person took your ticket was. Like, just tell me you were late. But when we over communicate, we think we're kind of doing more justice or we're supporting that, but we actually create confusion. And so I find that the term of death by PowerPoint kind of covers it all. It's a mixture of fonts and colors. It's creating chaos. It's not creating this synergy and this flow and this and giving yourself even like the lack of preparation. It's really evident in PowerPoints. I think when we copy and paste, when things feel compiled, even taking a bunch of decks and pulling them together, the content may be right, but if you don't make it look like it all goes together, you lose your credibility, you lose your trust, you lose your audience. There's so much neuroscience that goes into connecting and presenting and sharing with your updates or your information. And so we have to be really cognizant about that. It doesn't take a lot of work. It just takes the right mindful and intentional work to get there. I think that kind of covers the general of it. Any other questions about like, I never like to focus on the negative. I'm always like, there's so much opportunity when I get really ugly slides. But as a visual person who always saw and still sees the world as simple shapes and breaks it down to understand it, I think that when we overdo that, when we don't take the time to simplify, you lose people so fast, and it's so hard to bring somebody back in and keep them engaged once you lose them. So I think it's really important to create that connection, that authentic trust, and really take the time to build not only your story, but your slides that support your story.
Yeah, don't put too many words. That used to be my big issue going back then, because just like you said, I used to think, oh, I'm just generously giving people information. Here you go. But let's be honest, and I'm going to say this, and I might get in trouble. Let's treat everybody like they got ADHD, okay? I think that's a simple way to go about it. Let's just assume everybody that has ADHD, they can't focus, or OCD. Try to cater to those folks. Let's just assume everybody has that.
I like to say that we live in an attention-seeking economy. So we're used to always having all these things come at us at all the time. But if we over communicate all the things, you don't register it. When it's simple, when it's one thought, when it's one, right? Think about like even just engaging with social media and like the short clips. They're short clips. They show the words that people are saying so people who are audible, who are visual, who have sound, who have emotion, there's so much kind of connection that needs to happen when you present. And so you kind of, to your point, you've got to be able to make sure that you're reaching each person based on their learning styles. And that's where like I geek out about the neuroscience. We can sit there and we can listen to somebody present. And if we're not focused on what they want us to say, if we have all the words on the slide or we're using a million fonts and colors and we don't know where to look, we're taking the one thing that kind of we resonate, the first thing we read, the first thing we hear, we're tuning everything out, including the speaker, and we're creating our own story about, oh, I remember the time I rode a bike, or I remember the time that data came back and it was wrong or it was right, or it was really cool because we had so many right responders, and you're not listening anymore. And so when you can simplify that, and when you can focus on this is the data that I'm talking about and that I want my audience to know, and you don't show any of the other unneeded information, you help, to your point, you help those ADHD people, you help the learners who are visual or the audio learners, you really give them that clarity and focus. And simple is always better. That's one of my favorite tips to share, is less is always more when it comes to presentation.
Yeah, for the academics out there, this is especially for the academics, business people get this. Don't try to show off your intellect and put a whole essay in the slide. We get a tune out immediately. We might even be freaked out. Someone's just going to look at the wall. All right. That used to be my big problem. I used to just over communicate. I said, why is we not paying attention to my slide? It looks nice and pretty, but it had too much words. One of them told me to my face, it has too much words. You don't have to read the presentation. And I know that sounds hypocritical, but in my early PowerPoint presentation days, I used to make these same mistakes. I'm being very honest. So you learn from it. Don't take those feedback very personally, or think that these people are attacking you, because sometimes it's very easy to get defensive. Look, I know it's easy to get defensive because you want to do your best, but people don't see it. Well, just take feedback. They're giving you the answer. Might be a little late, but hey, you could do your next PowerPoint presentation and just get better and better from there. Oh, and a disclaimer, I am not a PowerPoint expert. Let's just say, even though I know a lot, I'm not going to consider myself a PowerPoint expert. I'm just an experienced PowerPoint consumer user. That's it. That's the most fanciest title I could give myself without cringy or feel like I'm lying to you. Because it is an amazing tool, and it's going to stay there for a very long time. It's not going anywhere, despite the Canvas and even the Copilot, even Power BI, which I actually love that tool. You can incorporate it into that. Even you can touch a form. I mean, this is recent additions, like a few years ago. 2010, most of these things, they didn't even exist. And even the AI designer suggestion, I'm pretty sure I'm saying the name of the feature wrong. But you know what I'm talking about, the one you go to your right, the little lightning, green icon. They give you suggestions. Some may be good, some may not be great, but if you're an expert, you don't need that. But I'll say use it as a draft. They become a better design than just do it. That's all I could say for that. So, anything else you want to add before I get to the next question?
I was just thinking, when you're talking about the idea of the slides and how we over communicate or how we use it, I like to use the analogy. I'm a big music lover. And so when you think about orchestra or just a band in general, right? They take the time. In an orchestra, you have the conductor, but in a band, you have the leaders or the key players. They take the time to spend, to prepare, to figure out what instruments need to play, how loud, how soft, how the beats come together, and how these different parts work together to create this harmonious, beautiful experience. And as an audience member, as a listener, you're engaged, you listen, you feel something, you move your body, and you stay in tune, right? And I have young kids, and they like pick up on music so fast because it's so easy to create that connection. And so when you think about your slides as that background harmonious music to your presentation, you remove all that extra content. You just focus on what you want. You design it, you simplify, you highlight, you use imagery to create this emotional, harmonious connection. You really get to elevate that experience, and you really set yourself up not only as like a more seasoned user of the platform, but as that leader and as that thought leader and as that expert on the topic. Yes, there are a million AI options out there. Canva has them. There's slide galleries. There's websites. I mean, there's AI where you could create your own presentation. And like you said, PowerPoint has them. But what they don't do is they don't know at the heart of your presentation what your point is, what your key takeaways are, who your audience is, who you are as a person, and how you create this harmonious connection. And that's where really focusing in on your presentation design will elevate that entire experience for you and your audience listening. Or if you're sending it out, right, PowerPoint is a tool that can be emailed, it can be a PDF, it can be an interactive piece, like you said, it could link to other things. But if you're not focused on who it's for, who the audience is and why and what you want them to think, feel, and do at the end, you're never going to make a difference. It doesn't matter if you use AI or not, because AI is the one that actually makes it feel less specific, right? But you remove that. If you use it as a tool to help simplify my headline, to give me what kind of image should I use if this is what I'm talking about and I want to create an emotional connection, I want to keep people engaged. AI is amazing as a support tool, but it's not going to be the thing to actually build and press and return, or press send from.
Yeah, you hear that, people? You direct the direction of the AI. Don't let AI control you, because it's a guaranteed fail. And I did that just an experiment. I read my own PowerPoint presentation. What the heck is this? It's just all over the place. I mean, they're trying to help. The intention is good. But you don't want to have to be the driver, not AI. That's an important tip I want to say. As an experienced AI user, again, disclaimer, I'm not an AI expert. Just don't let AI run you. You run AI, okay? It may be a pain in the neck sometimes, trust me, because when you type certain prompts, it's going to give you crazy stuff you didn't ask. Like, for example, if you're putting money, you might have a bank, like a bank safe. I was like, well, I didn't want a bank safe. I just want cash, showing cash, Mistakes like that do happen. So just make sure you're the driver, not AI. You're the boss, not AI. Okay? AI is your partner at best. And at worst, it's a difficult coworker. All right, that's what I'm going to say about that. All right, let's get to the positive. There you go. Let's do 180 on this. We already did the negative, over communication, designs all over the place, using a million fonts, a million colors. It looks like a kid just throw a bunch of paint on it. No, they got to think you're childish, irresponsible, immature. All that. Look, we humans, we judge quickly, like in seconds. Okay, and our attention span is no better than a goldfish today. Which I knew that was going to come. I feared that, but it was going to come anyways. Because all the social media bombardment that you added really played a big part into that. Even me, my attention span used to be decent, but now I was like, oh, okay, let me go here, let me go here, let me go search. You went through like 15 different clips without even realizing, and you learned nothing. Really. I mean, it's great we have all this information, but it's how we use it, right? It's our guidance, what's our intention with it is what's important. So just what people call doom scrolling. That's become such a buzzword. Just scroll, watch negative stuff. Not good for you. And this is, and I try to be more mindful of mental health, and that's definitely not helping you with that. I don't want to drift too much into that, but it's definitely impacting your brain. Like your dopamine receptors are fried, okay? That's your little neuroscience I'm going to get. I don't want to make it all neuroscience-y unless it's relevant to this topic, but that's most I'm willing to go. What are successful elements? I think you already said it. Simple designs that have synergy. I mean, I'm sure you got more.
Yeah. So I like to preach 3 kind of principles: simplicity, consistency, intentionality. And really it starts with, and we've talked about, it starts with knowing your audience. It starts with understanding how and what you're going to deliver and what that space is. So whether it's digitally, whether it's a keynote speaker in person, whether it's a small group and you're in a small conference room, or it's an email, understanding who your audience is and knowing how much information is important based on who they are and what they need to know. I have a 1-pager, a tip I have a free resources tab on my website. So we can include that in the show notes, that people can download. And I like to use a triangle, as a visual example, right? I'm such a visual person, but so at the bottom of the triangle, those are your peers. Those are the people you work with on a daily basis. They're doing the same kind of work, or like same level. And as you move up the as you move up the pyramid, right, you kind of you're starting to elevate leadership and thinkers and those really crucial decision makers. They don't need all the specific details of the day-to-day of that information. And so that the tip of the pyramid is less. And when you think about and you put an arrow next to it, it's how much information you're communicating. And so that is a starting point of how of a successful presentation. It's not just what it looks like, it's what it's set up for. So knowing your audience and what you want them to think, feel, and do throughout, and at the end specifically, is like the first place to start. And then I'm not a content writer, but I do help my clients refine their content. But it's crafting this narrative and it's telling the story. Stories have the traditional beginning, middle, and end. Use that to your advantage. We don't need to reinvent the wheel. Tell a story. But what you need to do that's different, I think, in a presentation is you have to start with the end in mind. So I kind of say end, beginning, middle, end. You're not going to repeat yourself word for word, but you may show things again because you want people to know why they're there, what you want them to hear and do, and what your purpose is. If not, to your point, you jump in and we're just engaged. We're not focused. We don't know why we're here. I'm going to think about where I came from, what I need to do next, what's on my to-do list, a story or something that happened to me, right? I'm going to start daydreaming about winter break, let's say, as I come back from work. And so it's really important to craft your narrative. My biggest tip on that is get the computer when you write your narrative. Get Post-it notes, get a Sharpie, put an idea on a page, on a Post-it note, start putting them up and seeing how they work together. It's such a brilliant creative exercise. I also recently heard, and I didn't know the truth behind this, but the idea of when you think or when you learn or when you're processing and you're on the computer, there's something about the gamma rays and the ways our eye works with our brain. Again, getting into a little neuroscience, but I geek out about this. It doesn't work and it doesn't connect in the same way as handwriting or like black and white paper are offline. I think you can kind of say when people read digitally versus non-digitally, when you write things down, or you're drafting something, again, there's something about that hand and mind connection that's really powerful in telling your story and crafting it that I really recommend. So once you know your audience and once you have your narrative set, now we get into the fun stuff. So to your point, design, simplicity, consistency, intentionality. I break it down into 3 parts. So slide intention overall, your content, and then your design. I can go into details, but I know it's a lot. Do you have any questions or do you want me to clarify anything before we start talking about the 3 parts of design?
Oh, no, feel free. This is going incredibly fast, so feel free to geek out more, give us more details.
Okay, great. So when you think about slide intention, again, simplicity, consistency, and intentionality, they apply to all parts of this. You need to have 2 or 3 key points that you want to make per slide. That's it. If it's more, it goes on the next slide. Nobody's going to sit there and be mad that you change slides, that your visuals change. To your point, they're going to be mad that I'm sitting on a slide for 15 minutes because I'm not going to pay attention. So 2 to 3 points per slide and limit and balance the amount of words and visuals and white space. Give your audience a space and time to digest the information. You can talk a mile a minute. They're going to retain that, but they're not. But if you just give them the right things to focus on that slide that support all the things you're talking about, maybe don't talk a mile a minute, sorry. But you know what I mean? You can talk at your normal speed. You really help keep them engaged. When it comes to content, the 3 things to be really important about, and this is when we talk about content, it's like the text on the slide. Headlines. Keep them as headlines. Keep them brief. Think about a newspaper article. You can read a headline and you kind of know what the article's about and what my takeaway might be. Use your headlines and your subheads to your advantage. Make them short. Use AI. It's such a great tool to say, here's my copy, brief it. Take your bullets, make them bullets. They should only be like 2 or 3 words per bullet. They shouldn't be run-on sentences. If it's a run-on sentence, it might be a whole slide. Or again, I love taking my longer formatted thoughts and going into AI and being like, help me make this really short and simple. It helps people stay engaged and it keeps them aware of what you're talking about. And what you also want to do with your content is you want to pick a font or 2, colors as well, and you want to stay true to those throughout the whole thing, because that simplicity and consistency, along with simplifying your headlines and your content overall, again, we're having 2 to 3 main topics per slide. We're having 6 to 8 bullets, 30 words max. Ideally, again, this is all like in a hypothetical great world. All of that really helps to keep your audience engaged and staying with you as you present and you tell this story. I am totally a fan of more slides, less on a slide. I think it does something. Again, when you change that slide, you're getting your audience to be like, okay, there's something new I need to listen to. It's different. I'm going to stay engaged. And designing your text is just as important as designing the visuals that support your text. Text can be the visual. And so that leads into the 3rd bucket of when you apply consistency, simplicity, and intentionality to your visuals, it's like a no-brainer. It's a win-win. So What does that mean? We kind of talked about using brand colors and fonts throughout, but it also is about creating data and charts or designing your percentages and your infographics in a very simple and compelling way. I don't need to know if I'm telling you a year update, right? I don't need to know every single date that this data was collected in my Y or X access. I just need to know the key dates that you're talking about, or focus in on just that one quarter. You can give me a summary of the thing verbally of saying we had a great year, we started here, we ended here, and then you focus in on the data that you use consistent colors when you talk about like-minded subjects, products, timelines, orders, whatever that may be. When you create a synergy and you pull colors through, our brains do this magical thing of putting the pieces together if you set it up properly. And that's where imagery is so important. Now, photography, icon, illustrations, right? Graphics. Those are all really important too when they're used properly, but they should be supporting what you're saying, whether it's a full image that's going to get this emotional connection across the whole page. Maybe you have one word that helps set it up. Maybe you have no words, but it's stylizing things and picking things again that are consistent. So if you go for a photo style, you try and use a similar style throughout. Illustrations, icons. Again, you don't want to mix different styling of things because our brains are going to get confused and they're not going to see that connection. So anything you can do to simplify that for your audience to really leverage what you're saying and highlight those things is so critical.
Well, audience, listeners, I really hope you're paying attention here. Don't pretend to have ADHD. Really,
Or go
ADHD
get the
has
one
sympathy for
pager.
you.
The one pager has it all written out very simply.
Yep. And don't worry, we're going to be sharing that website. That's going to be in the links in the description, especially some of the freebies that she has. Trust me, she has stuff that could definitely help you elevate your PowerPoint presentation to the next level. Okay, all that she says, it makes complete sense. Simplicity, simplicity, simplicity. And coherent, synergic design. Because, look, if you do, I don't know, a green slide on one, and if you do, I don't know, an orange one, flipping the topic, I don't know what people are like, what is this? No, you're talking about finances. Now you're talking about oranges? How does that connect? I mean, we can make connections, but do we really want to use that brain power to do that? Like the
Or
cost
you're making them use the brain power to create that connection, and now they're not listening and they don't know what you're actually talking about because they're trying to figure out how it's good or why it's good. So you're right. It's like you got to do the heavy lifting for them so that their brain can put the simple puzzle pieces together. Less is always more. I mean, I think in life too, right? Less is always.
Yep, and that's what we've been learning. I mean, you hear that a lot. There's a reason why it's doing great. Simple is best. It's, less is more in this case. I know it sounds like oxymoronic phrase to some of you that likes to be analytical and super logical. But look, you do less to get a better impact and attention span, okay? To get to absorb your message. There you go. I broke it down for you so you don't have to be a snob saying, that makes sense. There you go. I broke it down for you. Pay attention. I hope you're really listening to what she's saying. These are some valuable tools. And not just tools. I mean, tips on how to use the PowerPoint presentation to elevate your portfolio, your presentation, your storytelling, all the above. Now for the how question. How do you integrate a storytelling element into a PowerPoint? Because some people could just use it just for boring stats.
So I think storytelling or visual storytelling is the PowerPoint. It's when you take these tips, when you think about your audience, when you're cognizant and aware and spend the time to craft your narrative well. And then when you take the time to design it and lay it out and create that sequence, and you give yourself, again, the time to do it. One of my requirements with clients is I need 10 days minimum from kickoff to delivery, because we both need time to digest, to feedback, to go back and forth, right? To iterate together. If it's done overnight, we're not spending the time we need to craft the story. So the story, or that visual story, is really part of a process. And when you, again, know what you want your audience to think and feel and do throughout this, you will then make every decision that aligns to that. And that is creating storytelling. Storytelling is a way to engage your audience, to get your point across, and to allow them to understand it and to hear it And to your point, and it's not just words, or it's not just a slide, or it's not just one thing. It's creating this harmonious experience so that you can stay engaged and feel something, think something, and then do something.
Yeah, hear that? Elevated. That just shows stats. Oh, we achieved the second quarter's goal. Oh, we fell short of third quarter by 30%. I mean, how do we get there? What visuals, text, and what synergistic designs you need to really capture, really get your attention, to grab their challenging attention span. Because look, it's just getting shorter and shorter and shorter as time moves on. So you really have to do a lot of heavy lifting. I know that's annoying to some of you, but if you really want to build on a great PowerPoint and holding your attention, you're gonna have to do the work. There's no way around it.
Or start simple, right? Start with picking one font and 2 colors to use and keeping your headline in the same spot every time. Don't even worry about content. Just worry about that and you'll see the difference. And then the next time, maybe it is about, okay, I don't need all this data. I'm talking about quarter 3 and I'm just going to highlight the quarter 3 information on this slide, or I'm going to have a second slide that's just quarter 3. So I have my first slide that shows the whole year, my second slide that shows quarter 3. Those little differences will combine or compound to make a bigger impact over time. And you can make it easy for you to apply. It doesn't have to be all done at once. I agree. It's overwhelming. Again, my process with my clients, I start with 3 slides. Our first review is 3 to 5 slides. I'm not doing a whole deck because I want to make sure that I understand the story and that I'm digesting the information in the way that they're building it. And so that I can become knowledgeable about their story and that it's aligned, right? And so I think you gotta do that same for yourself. Like, I don't know what I'm talking about, or pretend that you don't, and break it down for somebody who doesn't know and do one thing at a time.
Yeah, one thing at a time. Start simple to fight this overwhelmed feeling. Because don't get me wrong, it could be overwhelming, especially with all the options that we have more than ever. I mean, 2010 PowerPoint, pretty simple for me. 2025 PowerPoint, I still say I'm intermediate. 2010 PowerPoint, I'm master level. 2025, I'll say I'm intermediate because there's so much features that I'm sure I'm not utilizing to its, I don't say full potential, but to its high, great potential. And how to incorporate with such an engaging, elevated Microsoft PowerPoint presentation. All right, so I'm just being honest. That's why I don't consider myself an expert. You want to say 2010? Okay, yeah, of course. I almost know everything about that one, even the crazy stuff. Maybe even a little bit of developers tips and tricks. But other than that, 2025 is I'm still learning. I'm a work in progress, and that's all I could say. And it's different now, and I'm sure it's going to change in 2026, 27, 28, and so on. That's how it stood relevant to the tech market. Now, that's all I'm going to say, because if you don't change it, just imagine PowerPoint 2010 version just stays there in 2025. People are going to move on from it. Canva will get more customers. All these other competitors will get more customers. In an alternative reality, they stick to 2010. They'll be obsolete. They'll be gone off the market. Gone by, well, this is so 2010. This is 2025. Get it together. So products that evolve with the market conditions, they generally survive. That's just basic marketing economics 101. Okay. And that's what I'm going to say about that. Anything else you want to add before we start doing a shameless plug-in? You already did a little bit of it, but we're going to elaborate more on your shameless plug-in.
No, I mean, I think we covered a lot of things. Like I said, simplicity, consistency, intentionality. Start small, think big. And there's actually an amazing song by Michael Franti that's that. And I use that approach every day. It really makes such an impact.
All righty then. So, listeners and viewers, go to her website. I am emilyschneider.com. It's a nice purple font with a bolded Emily with a little high from the M. I don't know why the second M is talkative, but that's the design. That's the official design. If you go to any other Emily Schneiders, I'm sure it's kind of common. That's not the real thing. Okay, I'm going to put in the link so you could go there, do the little heavy lifting for you. I'm going to provide a link, okay? Especially to her site, and even some of the It has some free resources. Her portfolio, I really recommend you check out the portfolio. She is a woman of action. Just look at it. Look at a nice green agenda at a glance. I mean, I don't even know what the heck I'm reading, but I'm curious, all right? That's the power of design.
Yeah.
It gets you curious instead of, oh, boring, I don't care.
Or I know this, right? Or if I know this and I think I'm already an expert at it, I've tuned it out. I don't need to listen to you anymore. So yeah, stay curious. I love that.
Yeah. So, I mean, this is some really beautiful designs. Look at our core values with the rainbow, line them nicely with the crowns. Well, except for the light blue that's sticking out being the outlier. There's always one rebel, the light blue crown. Always one rebel. You see, I'm paying attention to that detail because I'm curious.
I love it.
I'm curious instead of just, oh, I don't care, boring. I want to get this over with. Nice. All right, so just go to a website and it'll have her face right there saying, "Hi, I'm Emily Schneider, freelance PowerPoint designer," and she has not just amazing design. She has some videos, and she does so many other things. There's even some free resources for you as well. Okay. So bio, there's Master of Magic, there's some free tips. Listen to her other podcast she's been on, sharing this, and there's watching her. There's past stuff. And I'm sure that I'll say at least some of it are relevant. Okay, that we might have forgotten because, attention span is short. We sometimes got to go back to the past and just get that aha moment. Oh, I forget about how to be simple instead of just throwing a bunch of crazy color designs just to impress my stakeholders while they are just tuning out already because they're bored and they're miserable. They're going to think a child did it for you. Okay? That's all I'm going to say. So I'm also, there's some social medias as well. And she has her Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. I'll put all those in the link as well. Connect, talk. She's friendly. She's not going to go through the screen and just yell, whatever. She's a nice person. All right, just talk to her. She'd be more than happy to help. I could tell. You can't fake authentic passion. Some people tried, but even you detected, audience. This one, you have some brains and you even have great discretion. And just tell you, oh, this guest is a little phony. This was authentic. Okay, so just check her stuff out. All right. And is there anything else you want to add before I wrap this up?
No, I said send them to my website, or also I'm super active on LinkedIn. I always love connecting and networking with people there. So Emily Schneider on LinkedIn.
Yeah, so go to LinkedIn if you want the fastest response possible. Okay, I'm going to just emphasize that. I'm going to start doing that moving forward because some people like, social media apps more than one, more than, than the other. Me, I personally like YouTube. Okay, but YouTube is not the best, it's not best tool to socialize unless you want to comment on the video, I'll curse somebody out or compliment, whatever. And, LinkedIn is full of professional people. So you're not going to get people cursing you out. Less likely, of course. But YouTube, a whole nother story, whole nother beast. Okay, that's all I'm going to say about that. The reason I'm saying that, because some people prefer different social medias. And that's okay. I'll just post all of them. Alrighty then, now a little gutsy questions. Anything you want to add before I really wrap this up?
Just reinforce simplicity, consistency, and intentionality. It really goes such a far way when it comes to presentation design.
Okay, so whenever you have listened to this podcast, you have a blessed day, afternoon, or night.